On. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us here at my YouTube channel, Tampa Neighborhoods and Suburbs. My name is Colleen, Realtor with REMAX Action First. I'm based out of the greater Tampa Bay area. I can assist you anywhere within about an hour's drive in the area. So contact me if you have any questions or if you're just peeking around in the Tampa Bay area, let me know. But today we are going to be talking about the cost of waiting if you are a homeowner. Okay. So Brian here, we've got an expert. Brian Heckman is a mortgage lender and has been for 23 years, extremely knowledgeable. You will want to hear what he has to say, and numbers don't lie. We're going to look at some statistics here. He's going to explain some things to you. But in case you're not aware, if you're watching from another state, the Tampa Bay area is growing and has been growing over the last few years. It's becoming like the new Miami. I think South Florida has just gotten ridiculously expensive. And the secret is out that Tampa is an amazing city. So now people are flocking here by the dozens. So prices are not really going down. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to say that, but they're not. And I don't really like all this traffic, to be honest, but it's nice to see, people, you're escaping from wherever you're living. And I can't complain about, I love Florida other than the traffic, but thank you for joining us. Brian is going to show us some numbers here. But Brian, real quick here, what have you heard from other agents or from homeowners and people that want to buy, but they don't want to sell their house? And, what is the cost of waiting for them? Tell me a little bit about what you're seeing.
So I think it's really interesting. As professionals, I think, a lot of times have to be okay with somebody saying the best thing for me is to wait, or the best thing for me to do is rent. And so that's certainly an option for people. And I always tell people when they come in and we do a consultation, it is 100% not about me pulling their credit and doing a pre-approval. That part's pretty easy. It's more so having people understand the mathematics behind real estate. And that's really what we talk a lot about, is the math of real estate. And so I think that there's plenty of people that are just, they bought a house in 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, or they refinanced the house in 2020, 2021. They have a rate of 2 or 3%, and it's really hard for them to leave that property. But on the other side, National Association of Realtors has the data on this, that there's just a ginormous pent up demand. And we still have people that are moving to our state. State of Florida has a really strong economy. Tampa Bay is doing an amazing job throughout our whole market with the economy and jobs. People are still getting married and divorced and having babies, and empty nesters, retiring. So there's all these different factors just of reasons why people move. And so now we're starting to see people that they've been waiting for a couple of years for home prices to come down. Hasn't happened. Rates to come down. Hasn't happened. And now all of a sudden we have people that are looking at this, and they've had enough, and it's time to move.
Yeah.
They bought their house, and now they have an extra child, maybe two children. Maybe one or both spouse is working now part-time from home, or we have some people that are both working full-time from home, and that wasn't how they bought their house. That wasn't their family situation. And that's kind of more of a urgent sort of thing, because now you have families that are just, there's just no space. And so we are starting now to see people that are like, all right, I've waited for a couple of years. Things are supposed to level off, and that's not happening. So let's go ahead, and we keep getting priced out of the market. So um, if I could show, can I show you that one graph?
Yeah, go ahead. You should be able to share.
Okay. So I like showing, I'm just big on visuals. So for your viewers, I'm very much a visual person. So we bring people through this analysis. We just call it the math of real estate. And so here's an example, real time, of somebody that they came to us because they needed to buy the next house. It became available on the market, and they wanted to buy, but they hadn't yet listed their house, and they needed the equity out of their house in order to buy the next place, right? And so we have these creative financing products. We have a whole creative financing division. We have bridge loan, a suite of bridge loan products. All a bridge loan is that allows you to take equity out of your house to use in a temporary manner to buy the next house before you've sold your house. So now, Colleen, we've talked about this. There's a whole new demographic of real estate buyer and seller out there, and it's people that they will not list their house to sell until they found a house to buy because they don't want to sell their house and then have nowhere to live. So it's a different way to navigate right now. But then in the same token, it's very hard to get into contract on a house to buy if you have a house that has to sell. So now you have people that we have a program called Buy Before You Sell. And this is a program that helps existing homeowners get into contract on the house that they're going to buy prior to selling their existing home.
Okay.
We use bridge loans as part of those, but it's all about options to help people to figure out the best way to do it. However, what we always want people to understand before we get into the nuts and bolts of all that is understanding, for example, this is a customer that was buying an $838,000 home. So you see that in yellow there in the middle of the screen.
Yeah.
And then they were selling a house at 725,000. This is all set up, closing at the end of April here. And so what ended up happening is and this is something really important, especially in this, let's just use this as a demographic. If you're out there and you're looking at, yeah, that's me. I would want to buy my next house, but I would want to sell at some point. A lot of people in that demographic, it's not your first rodeo. So never before were you really concerned about like, how many offers do I have to compete against? But here we are, we're in that situation because of inventory, massive shortage. And so I think two things that I always bring people to look at in this analysis, and it's different for everybody, but I just use a very conservative, from what I hear from realtors all over the market, 3% appreciation. Of course, every neighborhood is hyper localized. So talk with
Right.
the real estate agent. Colleen knows the different markets and neighborhoods and all that. Let's just use 3%. At a 3% appreciation at a starting price point of $838,000, we always want to know like roughly how long are we going to stay in the house? Because the truth is, it doesn't matter what these reports come out every single month and the narrative we hear on the news stories about appreciation has gone up or down or flat. If you're not selling your house month over month or year over year, that stuff doesn't
Right.
really matter.
Right. Yeah.
Real estate has traditionally been a long-term investment, and when you're looking at it that way, it's always performed, always performed. So if we just look at this, just say for somebody in this demographic, generally, you're not buying a new family home for a year, you're buying it for a longer term. At 3 years, that house is worth 915,000 and change. You've got $77,000 in equity. After 7 years, that house is over $1 million. Very hard to fathom, right? It's very hard to fathom. But this is simple math. And it's kind of like the rule of 72, compounding interest, people don't understand. And then you look at the mathematics behind it, it's like, oh my gosh. So in 7 years, that house has $192,000 in equity. And I always like me personally, my wife and I bought in 2020. And we look at that house and we're like, man, there's no way. Oh yeah, this house it sure can go up. And so after 10 years, that same house that you buy at 838 at just a 3% appreciation would be over $1.1 million. And so the other piece of this little analysis, especially for these buyers that are selling and then buying, is what happens if you have to spend an extra $10,000 in order to get that house? What happens if you have a seller that's digging their heels in? They know they have a
Hmm.
desirable property, there's no inventory.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sell it to you for 828. It's 838 period. We also do this little analysis that's just the return on investment. So after 3 years in red, you see the far right, at just a 3% appreciation, it's a 777% return on investment of spending the extra $10,000. Again, just based on a 3% appreciation. So what we do is we help people just look at that because so many times deals are won or lost on a $5,000 negotiation or a $10,000 negotiation. And it's like, traditionally we would say that's a really dumb thing to overpay for a house. And I agree. But the person that's really not dumb is the person after 3 years that has $77,000 in equity. And now they've got almost an 800% ROI on just spending the extra $10,000. And the key thing here is in real estate, the key thing is supply and demand. And we're at a crisis level in supply. That's a very, very significant shortage of inventory that we have.
Hmm.
So, for
Yeah.
example, you're in the Carrollwood area of Tampa Bay. And there's no way to build new neighborhoods in Carrollwood.
Right. Yeah.
We can build a little tract of land for a townhome and put some, 30 townhomes in. But if you want to buy an $838,000 single family home in a neighborhood, the only solution to having the amount of inventory that we really need in a centralized area like Carrollwood, in your case, it's actually very simple. And the simple answer is, well, you just build a second story to Carrollwood, duh. So think about your neighborhood, wherever you're watching this from. That is the significance of where we are with inventory in most markets, especially our market in the Tampa Bay. It's a very easy fix for people that want to buy single family homes in a neighborhood. You build a second story to the neighborhood, right? I mean, it's simple. And of course, that's idiotic. We can't do that. And that's the root of the problem when people that are needing to buy, sell, and then buy to buy, their next home. That's the kind of the craziness that we talk about to help people understand. That's what we need. We're like at least 5 to 10 years still behind in inventory. But I would still say if you want to buy in a centralized area like Carrollwood, we're not building houses in Carrollwood anyway, not in communities. There's no land left.
No, right. Hmm.
So if you want to move an hour and a half outside of town or whatnot, you can get whatever you want. But most people that want to live in a centralized area, we have to go through numbers like this and then look over the long haul.
Right. And I always look at it as, everyone's waiting for the rates to go down, but what if they go up? I mean, what if we really don't know? I mean, anything could happen at this point.
Mhm.
So, if you're able to, I would say, I mean, it's like I can't even reiterate this enough that the Tampa Bay market, I just do not see homes. This is not going to be a crash or anything like 2008. There's no crashes happening like that. I mean, according to this chart, and like you said, homes are appreciating, and there is just not going to be enough of a difference for it to even make sense to wait, right? I mean, we just don't really know. And I know you've mentioned before, you can always refinance if the rates do come down. So to me, it just makes sense to just, if you like the home, get it now. Because if and when the rate does go down, now you're going to have to compete with all these other buyers. So now we're going to have a bidding war again on, especially if it's a very desirable home that you want. So you're still going to end up paying more money. So yeah, I don't know. What do you say? What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and you know how to facilitate folks getting this, I would just say, like, I wouldn't race to doing a pre-approval or a credit pull on something like that. I think and that's where there's been a big pendulum shift, very swift, very quickly. So if you're talking with real estate agents or mortgage lenders that are kind of pushing you, like, oh, get it pre-approved. I kind of joke about it. It's like going to rent a movie at Blockbuster Video this Friday night. That you can't do that because they're out of business because they never evolved their business. And that's a huge thing now with the same concept. Like, I don't want to pull anybody's credit. I don't want to do a pre-approval. Yes, we want to find out if you have a 590 credit score versus an 800 credit score, things are a lot different. If you make $30,000 versus $500,000, it's very different. So we're going to have a little bit of that conversation, but it's ultimately to make sure that, especially for people in this, I'm going to sell, buy a new bigger house, a step up buyer, especially with those folks, because it's not your first rodeo. So a lot of times you come in with great credit, great income, you have equity, you're in a great position, but the market is very, very different in how we have to help people navigate in this entire process. And so I think the big thing is just, get out ahead of it. You have to be proactive in this market, um, and understanding, what we just looked at with the mathematics behind this. There's never a need to be um, ashamed to not know the math and the numbers. Like I would ask the mortgage people you're working with, like, I'm a certified mortgage advisor. Supposedly less than 1% of licensed loan originators in the country actually have the certification designation. And all of that designation, the education for that, is centered around mortgage bonds, treasuries, how the economy is impacting things inside of the mortgage space, and secondary markets and servicing and guidelines, ultimately housing. But then the other piece of it is how to communicate the truth in an effective manner to consumers and to real estate agents. And that's a huge thing because like that chart that we had baked into our loan system, that's ultimately what that's designed to do is for help people understand like, hey, if you put your head in the sand, which unfortunately we have people that just they waited for 2 years, and it's really hard to say to them like there's not an option. What you would need is you would need we just did this. You would need a 3.25% rate in order to make the payment that you want. Like that's just not happening. Honestly, I hope we never see that again because I don't want to deal with 2020 again and that nonsense, right? So like that's probably never going to happen. So it's about finding other ways to help people, whether that be like we have a goodbye PMI program, right? So if PMI is the issue, well, great. There's always solutions. It's just a matter of exploring it before you are dead set on a house and it's Sunday at 4 o'clock and there's three other offers who are already prepared. That's the big thing. And Colleen, you have all of the resources to help people to get into these analysis, which again, they're free. So you might as well take advantage of them before you go do your pre-approval process.
Right. Okay. So if you're watching and you're just thinking about maybe selling your home, but you're hesitating a little bit, contact me. I can get you an updated market report so you can kind of see, what your home is worth in the equity in your home as well. And Brian has actually we got a nice app for that, free for you, so you can keep an eye on your home equity. And, like he mentioned, there's bridge loans. We actually have another video that's going to go a little bit more into detail about a bridge loan. But contact me, contact Brian. Brian, what's the best way to get in touch with you? What's the best phone number?
Yeah, 813-749-7776 is our office line. It's also a text line. So I would say text message is probably the easiest way. That way we know who we're talking to and what the topic is. So again, that's 813-749-7776.
Okay, great. And those details will be in the description of the video as well below. So anything else you want to add real quick before we wind it up?
Oh yeah, I think that it's really important. Also, want you to explore payment relief options, creative financing. If you're a parent out there who has a child that hasn't yet bought their house, or they're a teenager and you want to set them up to be able to pull the trigger, whether it's when they go to college or come out of college, there's this Parents Plus mortgage program that's a phenomenal like on ramp for people. Colleen knows information about that. You can get with her to get some more information on that as well. But it's kind of one of those things, right? They say the best time to buy real estate was 5 years ago. The second best time is today. The reason for that, I don't like catchy slogans, but I like the data and the numbers behind it. So that's why for me, everything is about let's show you numbers that are specific to your scenario so that you can
Mm-hmm.
see the numbers for your own situation.
Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds good. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your busy day to educate all of my viewers on what's going on here in the Tampa Bay market. And if you like this video, make sure you hit like, feel free to comment, ask any questions, subscribe to the channel, just hit the little bell button. Thank you for watching and check out one of these other videos that have more information about mortgages. Thank you so much, Brian. That's Brian Heckman with the Heckman Group. Bye for
Thank you.
now.
Appreciate being here.
Bye-bye.